where we stopped our last class.
How research not to be, sir?
How the research should not be.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So it was completed, and now we are going to discuss about what are the steps in research methodology. Is the screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Ah. Is the screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So I think this
Yes,
was
sir.
the which we did of what are the various types of studies. Okay, and here I stopped that actually. Why? Because steps in research methodology. So if you see the steps in research methodology, first one I discussed slightly about the formulating the research problem, and second thing, if you see the second thing, which was related to the literature survey. So it was extensive literature survey. So I hope you have an idea about the words which was here. What is meant by survey? Yes, what is meant by survey?
Collecting of data, sir.
Data. Is it right? Is it the answer? Collecting the data? Survey. Yes, please respond. What is meant by survey? Yes, please respond. Yes, Harish Kumar. Harish Kumar. Srilata.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Harish Kumar. Can you tell me about what is meant by
Yes, sir.
survey? Or if you are not
Survey
able
is nothing but
surveying,
collecting data, sir. To
collecting
study and
data.
collect the data.
Yeah. Keep if you stick on to that answer. What is this?
Hello, sir.
What is this?
Sir, screen is not visible. Collection the data, sir. Collecting the data, sir.
Yeah.
Oh,
And why it was repeated then? If you collected the data in the literature survey, sorry, in the survey itself, then why the step comes here again, collecting the data? So here I can giving you a numbers, which was better understandable for all of you. So if you feel it as a survey means collecting the data, then why comes the sixth step? Okay, leave it. The term survey may be very difficulty to get the definition. What is meant by literature survey? Yes. Anyone? What is meant by literature survey? I hope in your PG UG projects, the second chapter itself is a literature survey. What is meant by literature survey? Yes, someone please respond. Okay, no problem. So these are the steps which was involved in the research methodology. First step will be the formulating the research problem. Second step will be the extensive literature survey. Third step will be the developing the hypothesis. Fourth will be preparing the research design. And fifth will be determining the sample design. And sixth will be collecting the data. Seventh will be execution of the project. And eighth will be analysis of data. Ninth will be hypothetical testing, and 10th will be generalization and interpretation of the result, and 11th will be preparation of the report or whatever the presentation which you are going to be developed by the obtained results, from the obtained results. So these are the generalized steps in this research methodology, and if you go for the research characteristics, and you see these research characteristics, that means whatever the methodology which you are going to be identified, it has to possess some characteristics. And if you see these characteristics of the research work, that characteristics should be originate with a question or a problem, and it requires a clear articulation of a goal, and it has to be follow a specific plan or a procedure. That means whatever I given in the definition of the research and the research methodology, it has to be follow a particular procedure. Okay, and often divides many problem into sub problems. That means in order to characterize your problem, you may go for characterizing or studying of some other characteristics. Okay, and if you see the fifth one, guided by specific problem, question or hypothesis. That means the problem can be solved by using any hypothetical techniques or by finding out the answer from the question itself. Okay, and if you see the sixth one, it accepts the certain critical assumptions. That means sometimes you have to assume the data which was available or which was already created or which was already established data, like whatever we assumed in the bending moment theory. So based upon the assumption itself, we are going to planning the moments and planning the placement of any other required data to contract all these bending moments. So like that assumption should be made, should be acceptable, because those are already established things. Okay, and seventh one, if you see, it requires collection and interpretation of data. So whatever the data you are going to be collected, that should be interpreted also sometimes, because may not be the required answer to your problem, cannot get from directly from the collected data, it should be some interpreted. Okay, and cyclic in nature, because it was the research was a never-ending process, it will be the cyclical. So these are the research characteristics, and these are the good research characteristics of good research. So when you can be called as a good research means if you follow a systematic, logical, empirical, and replicable or applicable methodology, then only we can call it as a good research work. So if you are not followed a systematic procedure or whatever you are going to analyze or give a solution, if it was not any accepted by the given rules or regulations in a logical manner, or whatever you are going to predict the aspects, it could be a empirically suited to the real situation, and it should be some applicable nature. Then only you can call it that is a good research work. So just wait, what is your syllabus? Did you have anyone having a syllabus? Yes. This is the syllabus.
Sir.
I am getting it. Characteristics of a good research. Just wait. So what is the screen visible to you now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
What
sir.
is the screen? What is the screen?
Syllabus copy, sir.
Syllabus copy.
screen.
So according to your syllabus, you can see that we are at we completed objectives, types, and about research. We are now going to discuss about research approaches and what are the guidelines for selecting a research problem. Okay. So if you see this about the research approaches, based upon the various types of research methodologies, that means which we discussed about lastly quantitative and qualitative approaches. So by this we may go for a significance research. Why? Because based upon the role of research in various fields of applied sciences or any other social inventions, these significances may be changes. These significances may be changes. So whenever you are going to approach any particular methodology or any particular method which will be very useful, by which you can going to assume or adopt the technology. So whenever you are going to adopt the simulation approaches, that means which will be useful in building models for understanding for the future conditions, then it was applicable when you go for an experimental approach only. That means in order to develop this type of various approaches, that means whatever you can call it as a quantitative or qualitative methodologies, same approaches should be there here, quantitative and the qualitative approaches. So when you are going to approach for the quantitative or the qualitative approaches, and if you see, if you want to be the research problem under a qualitative approach, it should be concerned with a subjective assessment of attitudes, opinions, and behaviors. Okay, and this research is it may be in a function of researchers' insights and impressions. So if you see this type of qualitative approach, it can regenerate either results in a non-quantitative form or in form which is not subjected to the regressive quantity analysis. That means whenever you go for a quality approach, the approach may changes to what was not same as the quantity. That means whatever the data, whatever the result which was getting was not maybe comparable to the quantitative methodologies. Where because in the quantitative methodologies, the quantity itself it takes a more. But here, if you go for a qualitative approach, it will give a focus. So on which you are going to develop on all those things. Okay. And what is the next topic? Guidelines. What is the next? What is the syllabus? Guidelines for selecting and defining a research problem. So now I am going to explain about how you are going to select this select a research problem and what are the guidelines you are going to be followed, okay, while defining a problem. So whenever you are going to select a problem as a research item or a research product, that should be undertaken for study with a more carefully. Why? Because you may think that selecting a problem, that means selecting an idea, may not be such important, but selecting a problem itself a very difficult task. So can I? Okay, no. Why? Because if you are not properly selected a problem, then you may not know what going to be happen also. That means while selecting the problem itself, you are to be able to estimate what may be going to happen and what is the procedure to be followed. All these things to be very much careful understanding while selecting a problem. So if you want to select this problem, why? Because whatever if you see this, a guide should be there to guide you. So if you take a problem which was not related to the area of your guide, then he may not support you. Okay, that's why based upon the, if you have an interest, then you have to select a problem on that your interest. But at the same time, you have to approach the proper guide also for a proper guidance. Okay, every researcher should have a problem, but it should not be borrowed from any other. So that is the thing. Why? Because if the problem was identified by his own or by the proper identification with an approach of his guide, then it will be different. But if you taken from or if you borrowed from any other, it should be like something seeded without any importance. Okay. Like if you take an example, if you have any medical issues. So if you have a medical issue related to your stomach, how far a heart surgeon can suggest you? He may suggest you based upon the basic knowledge, but it may not give you the correct reason, or it may not suitable for you exactly. So that's why it has to be a proper selection should be there. Okay, and while selecting a research problem or a subject to do a research, you have to follow very many other factors are going to be influenced also. So what may be the factors means? So first of all, you are not to be selected a controversial subject. What may be the controversial subject means? Something which was related to the beliefs or something which may affect the other person's personal issues, like that. Controversial should not be a subject. Okay, and similarly, it should not be too narrow or it should not be too vague. Well, because if it was a too narrow problem, then whatever you are going to find out or whatever you are going to carry out the experiment will not have a larger scope to expose the result. And if it was a vague problem, that means unlimited chances of doing the experiment, then also it may create a problem when you are going to solve. So that means I can give an example now. I think there is a no need of an example. And whatever the subject you are going to be selected, that means whatever the problem you are going to be selected, it was related to your subject. That means maybe that basic knowledge which you acquired should be usable to solve sometimes, but it may not be completely compulsory. But whenever you are going to do any research work, the basic knowledge should be there on that particular area or on that particular subject. That means, as an example, okay, the importance of the subject based upon the qualification also. What is the qualification here comes into act? Whose qualification? So this was qualification based upon both yours and your guidance or the guiding peoples. And also you have to keep in mind what may be the financial issues also. While selecting a problem, you have to keep all these things. That means it should not be vague and it should not be narrow, or you have a basic knowledge on that, or whatever the financial aspects and how much time it may complete, like that. So like if you see the civil subject materials oriented, they may complete it with a testing of 90 days or 180 days. It was not applicable if you go on testing for a period of 360 days or 10 years or 20 years. Well, because whatever the fruits we have to get from that research work should be applicable in a time, in a most applicable time. Right? Because if you go on doing that research work without any time limits, whatever the product you are going to find out at the end may be older one. That means better than that someone may be find it. Okay, that's why the time should be very one of the other criteria. Okay, time, financial aspects, basic knowledge, problem size, and it should not be controversial. So these are main things which have to be kept in mind while selecting a problem. Okay, what is the next item? The syllabus is, so it was the guidelines for selecting. And if you go for the defining a research problem, so while you defining a research problem, what is the need to define a research problem? It's a very simple answer for this one. Whenever you are getting a problem, you must express that thing. So what is the need to express, like, what is the need to express or for whom to express? That means the need is, just wait. Okay. So what is the need to express your problem means, if you state something, that means if you express your need, the problem, during the problem solving methodology or during the process of problem solving, then only someone can tell you or something can know by you. That means even I hope I can get an answer from you for this question, where you are going to search something. What is the best search engine regularly you are using? I hope this question I can get the answer from you.
Google.
Google, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. If you open the Google search, does it gives an answer?
Oh, sir, we
No, sir,
entered
we have
the
typed
sentence
You have to enter your,
question.
words, sir.
you have to enter some word. So entering that word itself a requirement. So you are telling something to that. To whom you are telling? Here you are telling something to the Google search engine. Then in return it will gives you an answer. In return it will gives you some answer, and at the end you have to be in a position to justify whether it was applicable or suitable. And again there will be many other characteristics to be defined. Whatever the answer we are getting from the Google search may not be suitable. May not be suitable. Why? Because if you see a word, you can have a same word with a different meanings. What you are going to apply or what you are going to adopt is again left to yours. It was your final decision. But if you express a wrong word, can it give you the same thing? If you express a wrong thing other than your requirement, can you get the same answer? What do you require?
Related, I think, sir.
No, sir.
So due to some updations, it may suggest whether is it the same word or the different. Is it the same word or the different? That may ask. Okay, but sometimes it will give you the answer what it understands. Similar manner, if you have any problem, you have to define it in a clear manner so that someone or something can help you out in solving that solution. Because everything cannot be pre-written in our minds. So it has to be earned as a part of our knowledge journey while reading or while discussing and all the things. Or whenever you are going to read or whenever you are going to discuss something, you have to define that problem. Whatever you are selected as a problem, you have to express this is the problem I am going to select it, and I am expecting from this problem this output. How can I get this type of output? Okay, by this you may have a better application of getting a solution. That means a problem can be clearly mentioned. So it may be in a questionable manner or it may be in a feasible manner, whatever it may be. Defining a research problem properly is a prerequisite for any study and it is a step of the highest importance. So that is the main thing. Why? Because if you are not properly mentioned your problem, no one can help you. Even in the Google also, it may not suggest you the right thing. So that means due to your response, I am not able to create any ideas or create any examples also actually. Okay. So that was about the defining a problem. So while defining a problem, there may be some techniques by which you can define your problem in a better way. Okay. So while this, if you see this, by taking what does a research problem or what is the meaning of or what is the need to define a research problem. If you take an example, so it will give you an answer that the problem along with the bounds within which it to be studied, or defining a problem involves the task of laying down boundaries within which a researcher shall study the problem with a predetermined objective in view. That means whatever the answer you are going to get, that was very well known to you, all of you. That means if you see while writing an abstract itself, that means if you see writing a abstract like studying of the mechanical characteristics of a M20 grade concrete or M50 high grade concretes. So the final solution you are very well known at the initial stage itself. What may be the final solution? That means a project report on high strength concrete or influence of silica fume on high strength concrete, like that. If you stated a definite problem, then you have a very well known answer that you are going to add the silica fume and at the end of this you are going to get a high strength concrete. So you are known, but whatever the procedure or whatever the methodology which you are going to adopt should be a predetermined objective. Without that predetermination, we can't encounter the research operation also. Because if you create this type of research problem, or if you are not explained what the research problem you are identified in a clear manner, or you yourself having a doubt on what you are going to do. That means in the last class I asked for many members what may be your project work. So you are not predetermined up to now. Why? Because you are doing a research work as a part of a subject but not as a part of a life. So may not be you are not allowed to spend whole life this research work, but at least whatever you are going to do that project work in a span of 9 months or 12 months of your second year, that should be a predetermined or a pre-processed. That means you have to follow a methodology. So in order to follow all these things, your problem could be easily explainable or it should be easily understandable to all of them. Who are all means, so here whom the all starts from you. In the all, the first one will be you. That means you have to be in a position to understand the problem very clearly. If you are not understand the problem clearly, or you have some doubts on your own problem which you've taken as a research item, then it will be very Herculean work to explain that research problem to others also. Are you understanding? Hope you may understand that thing. Okay. And whatever the techniques while you defining a research problem should be very properly and clearly. That will be a major or crucial part of this research study. Okay. So if this was not undertaken, that means whatever you defining this problem techniques, the one of few steps may be clear way. That means statement of the problem in a general way, or understanding the nature of the problem, or surveying the available literature, developing the ideas through discussion, or rephrasing the research problem into a working proposition. That means initially you may adopt a problem, but you may rephrase after a discussion, after a thorough literature survey, after understanding the nature of the problem and how far what is the possibilities, all these things, you may rephrase one and each things. Okay. That will give you a better knowledge. So that will give you a better knowledge while defining a research problem. If it was not properly defined, I will no one can get a good idea. Okay. So what is the next thing? Research design. So actually this research design and concept to the research design was another unit, so that I will explain in the next class. If you have any doubts, you can ask, otherwise you can leave. If you have any doubts, you can stay, otherwise you can leave.
Sorry for not responding, sir.
What is that?
ఇందాక అందరు రెస్పాండ్ కాలేదు కదా సార్.
నో ప్రాబ్లం, నాదేముంది, నాకు ఇంకా మేలు, త్వరగా చెప్పుకుంటూ పోవచ్చు సిలబస్. మీరు రెస్పాండ్ అయితే మీ ఎక్స్ప్లెనేషన్ డిఫరెంట్ ఉంటుంది, రెస్పాండ్ కాకపోతే సబ్జెక్ట్ ఎంతవరకు ఉంటే అంతవరకు చెప్తాను. ఇట్ వాజ్ నాట్ ఏ ప్రాబ్లం.
రెస్పాండ్ అవుతాం సార్ ఇంటి నుంచి.
చూస్తా, నేనే తొందరగా ఆపనులే, నేను ట్రై చేస్తూనే ఉంటా. నెక్స్ట్ క్లాస్లో నేను మళ్ళీ అడుగుతాను, నేను మళ్ళీ ట్రై చేస్తా. స్టిల్ ఇట్ వాజ్ ద సేమ్ ప్రాసెస్, దెన్ I can stick to the basics. Okay.